Great. Okay. Cool.
You good? Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another inspiring Olim story. My name is Rafi Shulman, and I'm the founder of Olim Advisors. I'm honored to have Georgie Cohen join us today. Georgie made Aliyah in 2019, and she's striving to become the first ever female Israeli athlete to qualify for the Winter Olympics. Hi, Georgie. Thanks for joining us today. So
Hi,
tell
Rafi.
us, what is a skeleton race?
So what is skeleton? Skeleton is a pretty niche sport and not something that you would typically associate with Israel. So it's a winter sport, and it's one of the 3 ice sports. So you might have heard of Cool Runnings, which is the bobsleigh. And we are skeleton is the one where we go head first down the icy chute on nothing but what looks like a tea tray, head first with no brakes, reaching speeds of up to 135 kilometers an hour, which is about 85 miles an hour, and experiencing 5G pressures. And we navigate down this icy track, steering with our shoulders, our knees, with small movements of our body, or using our toes in more intense steers, kind of through twists and turns. And there are various tracks throughout the world. There isn't a track in Israel, and nor is there one in the UK for that matter. So we do have to travel abroad to practice skeleton and to race. But they're all very different in nature. So you'll have some tracks that flow and are kind of like really nice, and I wouldn't say any are gentle, but kind of a little bit easier to navigate, whereas you've got others that are kind of a bit more hardcore and like really fast and technical. So that each track has, as I said, its own nature, and that's it. That's skeleton.
Sounds pretty exhilarating. Do you have a clip that you want to show us, just so we can get a real sense of what it looks like going down?
Yeah, because you can only kind of explain so much. I think it's always better to show you and get the feeling of what is skeleton. I'll share my screen now.
Great.
My name is Georgie Cohen. I represent Israel in skeleton bobsleigh, and my goal is to become the first female athlete to qualify Israel in the sport for the Winter Olympics.
Can you tell me what skeleton is?
Wow, that seems pretty amazing. So what makes you even get into a sport like that? It seems like it's suitable for a certain type of personality. It's not something that you wake up in the morning and think to yourself, I'm going to go down at 85 miles an hour. How did you even get into that?
How did I get into skeleton? It's actually my dad's fault. So he started bobsleigh. He started doing bobsleigh, which is the Cool Runnings one where they kind of go in the rocket on the ice track. He started at the age of 50, and me and my brother kind of thought, what is he doing? It's like kind of a midlife crisis. And I went out to watch in Lillehammer, and it wasn't until a few years later that I actually got on a sled myself. But I saw him do it and he just enjoyed it. It was such like a real community of like camaraderie and like the fun and the exhilaration of it. I think the first time that I watched it, I was like, absolutely not, never going to do that. And then a few years later I was given the opportunity and I just couldn't say no. So I started out when first time I got on a sled was 2014 and I was the age of 25. So wow. I did start a little bit later on. It is a second generation sport though, so but I went out, I was invited to go and slide with the Royal Navy team. It was a real like kind of lucky and very special opportunity that was offered to me, and that was in Austrian Eagles. So I did 1 week with them and was just like kind of just blown away with all the kind of exhilaration and the thrills of sliding. I fell in love with the sport after the first run, and kind of just continued to pursue the passion through using my holiday time to go out and slide in different places in Europe, kind of just getting better and better, investing in myself and putting everything I could into the sport to do as well as I could. And here we are today representing Israel. And it was some of the clips that you saw there were from the World Championships, where I was first female to represent Israel at the World Championships. It was an absolute huge honor. Also happened to be on International Women's Day, which was something that I think will like really stick with me forever. But my goal is to follow in the footsteps of our previous Olympian AJ Elderman, who was represented Israel for the first time at Olympics in skeleton in 2018 in Pyeongchang, and my goal is to be the first female to get up to the start line for Israel and take the flag to Beijing.
That's amazing. And so you're living in the UK and you fall in love with the sport. What made you think to, okay, let's make Aliyah and let's compete for Israel? You could have competed maybe for the UK, or what was kind of the inspiration behind picking up and leaving everybody and making Aliyah to Israel and competing for Israel?
Yeah, I think that it's just one of those, this is a real journey, like a life journey for me, I think. And something, I've had so much opportunity and adventure from the first time I got on a sled, and it has just, well, excuse the pun, accelerated quite a lot. And being able to compete for Israel is just like such a huge honor. And so kind of around the age of 25, when I was kind of looking to do skeleton, I started to contemplate, was Israel going to be part of my story? Was it going to be part of my life where I'd progress to and take my career and my life to? I think anybody who's been to Israel's Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and as a Jewish person, it's a hugely special place for us. So that was like kind of like the kickoff of my story of connecting with Israel. And I did make that connection, reached out to the Israeli team, and it was kind of like one of those things that's just like a moment where kind of very special, almost not to be like spiritual, but like kind of like following my path. And my path has been with the Israeli team. And then as well, I've got a really kind of a nice family legacy that I am trying to live up to at the moment. So a really nice story on my father's side. They were Mizrahi Jews from the Middle East, and they migrated to India, and they were there for a couple of generations. My granddad was a very big sports person, and he ended up qualifying with India as the team captain for water polo. And they were headed to the Berlin Olympics, but the team held him back because they feared for his safety as a Jewish person in Hitler's Nazi Germany at the time. He was denied that opportunity. But since since then he did contest the decision at the time, and it was something that he really regretted. But a few years later, he was given the opportunity to compete in the Maccabi Games in hockey.
Oh, really? Wow.
That's we got some absolutely fantastic photos, like in our my nana's house, and I think through that legacy, to be able to go and represent Israel, as a Jewish person freely at an Olympics is something that would be very special for my family.
Wow, that's really amazing. So you have it in your blood from your grandfather to your father and now to you. That's pretty amazing.
Talk about chasing a legacy. So
it sounds like you're really able to combine the love that you have for Israel and the love that you have for the sport, which is just, it seems like it's just an amazing opportunity for you to go after. So how's it been living in Israel so far? You've been here for a couple of years, and I know you've been back and forth in training around the world, but talk to us a little bit about the experience of moving from the UK to Israel and what you expected, what you didn't expect, how things going along so far.
Yeah, for sure. Because, with this sport, I do feel like partly nomadic, kind of moving around to, but, wherever I go, I'm taking the Israeli flag with me. So, but moving to Israel, what did I expect and what didn't I expect? So I think that one of the best things about moving was kind of that sense of community. And when I arrived, I'm really lucky. I do have some family out there, so they were all really helpful and welcoming as I arrived, but also kind of the willingness of others to make friendships and support you and kind of show you through all the steps, like kind of socially or through that way. I think that the sense of community is something that really resonates in Israel with me. People are always willing to help. And also with the language. I didn't struggle so much. My Hebrew wasn't strong, and it's still improving, I'd say, but it's a tricky one to learn. But people are always kind of willing to help and speak English when you can. My advice, I think, would be speak as much Hebrew as you can, but people aren't going to kind of hold it against you when you have to switch to another language. And whatever language that is, there are other people who speak it in Israel, I promise. So it's a very the diversity is fantastic as well. I think it's one of the things that make Israel very special from my end. And I think that the process of making Aliyah, I did that through the Jewish Agency for Israel. And I owe great thanks to my shaliach. They were really helpful the whole way through and made everything feel like a breeze. The advice from me there is just to do your reading, make sure that you've dotted the I's and crossed the T's. And to be honest, it's actually kind of a very it's, while slightly bureaucratic, it is a smooth process. So it's there to help you. And I think that it helped me prepare very much for when I got to Israel.
I think the point that you mentioned about planning is so important because there's so many factors that go into it. And I know that we see this when we help people make Aliyah, is that there are a lot of decisions that have to be made. In your case, you came alone, so you didn't have to worry about kids and schools and, things like that. But I think, to your point, it's definitely doable. A lot of people have been thinking and dreaming of making Aliyah for years, and they always think it's not going to happen or it can't happen because there's so many decisions that have to be made. But like anything in life, and I think it's very relevant to your training, if you have a plan and if you stick to the plan and you have to do this today and this next week and this next month, then it's definitely doable. And I think you're kind of a living proof of that, is that if you come with the right mindset, if you do planning ahead of time, and if you have a positive attitude, because when we made Aliyah from the US, it's a different culture, it's a different mindset, different language. And I think there are going to be some days that are hard and some days that are easier. And I think the important thing is really to have that positive mindset, to know that things will get easier over time. And in 6 months, in a year, whoever comes here will be in a much better place. And I think, in my experience, that's really a key to living here happily is having that mindset and having that patience to just take things as they come and making the best of the situation.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And as well, there's always an answer to your question, and there's always somebody who's willing to help. I found that the whole way through. So, and as well, like no matter what kind of background you come from, or like there is somewhere for you in kind of like your niche, I guess. So, for me, one of the really big draws and attractions was in Tel Aviv was kind of how people work really hard, but also have like a thirst for enjoyment of life, and like there's a really nice work, there's a balance there. So you've got that drive and that motivation of kind of like this growing the tech industry. You don't need to explain that, but kind of so it's hard working, like it is very fast moving. But I think because it is kind of, you also have that like injection of beach life and the kind of the cool and the kind of happy culture that comes with it. And kind of as well for me, I love art. I think one of my little like life goals is to have a little stall on Nahalat Benjamin when I finish up with Skeleton. You'll find me there, just like one kind of there is a niche for whatever it is that you love, I think is where I'm trying to come from. So
amazing. And so now you told me you're in off season, and then the season starts again in about 6 months or so. So Philistine, what do you need to do to qualify? It's something that I'm sure is going to be a hectic schedule for you. So what does the next few months look like?
Yeah, so for our off season, do not be fooled by the word. I think I said that before, but it's going to be a very, very intense training block over the next few months. So at this point, we become sprinters and power lifters, weightlifters, to kind of really get in the best physical condition, because that start that you saw on the video is really important. It's physics. The faster you run at the top, like the faster you get at the bottom. But yeah, so that this is going to be like the off season, and there's going to be a lot of planning that goes into strategy, working with my coaches. I'm really lucky to be working out here in England with some ex-GB athletes who were very successful. And then in the winter season, we'll be heading out to wherever it is the calendar is going to send us, whether it's North America or Europe. And then we're going to have to continue to navigate the challenges that COVID is presenting. And for qualification, we have quite a short qualification window. It begins in October and ends in, I think it's going to begin in November, and will end in January, just a few weeks before the Olympics. Oh, wow. So we'll be racing across approximately 7-8 races, which will count towards our qualification. It's our final ranking. The long and short of it is that there's 25 women's spots, 25 men's spots, which is great this time around, because it's the first time at an Olympics where you're going to have an equal standing. So previously it was 30 men and 20 women, and now it's 25-25. So which is really great. So that's the long and short of it, where we're going to be finishing up in the final rankings, and then they have country allocations. And I'd probably talk your ear off for 5 minutes if I explained all the intricacies of
it's fascinating.
But yeah, so everything that I do now is working towards qualification. And it's, I guess, one of the challenges that COVID has presented. For me, where location has been kind of messed around quite a lot of, where I wanted to be, where I expected to be. But I have to do exactly what is best for my progress and, I think for the sport. But after the Olympics finishes, my boyfriend and I are going to go and do the Israeli trail, I think, and then you'll find us sipping wine on the beach in Tel Aviv. So, at the moment, as long as that's our goal, is to get the Israeli flag to Beijing.
Sounds like you're locked and loaded and focused, and I think it's just amazing how you're not just representing yourself, but it's your family, it's, Jews around the world, and of course, Israel as well. And I really, I think it's inspiring. I think it's inspiring to see someone like yourself commit to this and then really go after it. And so I want to wish you all the best of luck, and I want to encourage anybody that's going to watch this to reach out to Georgie and just share some words of encouragement. I'm sure that when you're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to train, I'm sure that'll really help a bit. And one last point just to mention, just to let everybody know that Georgie is self-funding this, and she needs all the help that she can get. So if you can just take a moment, go to Georgie's website, georgiecohen.com. She has a GoFundMe campaign going there, and I'm sure she would appreciate every donation that we can make. So please do that. And we want to all wish you the best of luck and kol hakavod, and we'll be rooting you all the way down the track.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me, Rafi. And for everybody who's thinking of making Aliyah already, just do it.
Those are good words to live by. Thanks, Georgie. Take care and good luck.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Cool.